So thank you so much once again joining Avinash Benji from England. It's a wonderful possibility for the platform of research to have you on board. And you are an academician, a researcher, a PhD, and at the same time a wonderful profile in research and a lot of other social activities. Such a wonderful possibility for us to have you on board, ma'am. And you're also heading one of the organization which is into social work and research and academic activities, Iskama Global. And we've heard about it, and it is certainly a wonderful platform for researchers, academicians, and people who want to make change in social dimension. Thanks a lot once again, ma'am, joining. So we've got to cover a topic with you, which is certainly a very important topic because many of us, no matter how qualified and what's our merit and what's our education, we do struggle with this kind of problem. The topic is very comprehensive: the silent epidemic, understanding stress and mental health in a fast-paced world. No matter whether we are lettered, unlettered, educated, semi-educated, we all struggle with this problem. This is certainly an epidemic. So thanks a lot, ma'am. Joining this is certainly going to be an important discussion with you. So would like to move on to my first question, which is very important question, says hidden signs of chronic stress. Could you please throw comments?
Well, as you know, Dr. Sir, people sometimes don't even realize they're going through stress. All right, because the signs could be so, we tend to ignore them, and but it can show up in so many different ways. Like people start feeling tired, you might have pains in the legs, and just feeling like something bad is about to happen. And that sometimes after a good night's sleep, this is why sleep is important. My late mother used to say, sleep can cure most problems. It's like when we were young, myself or my brother, if we were sick, she used to say, instead of medication, let them sleep as long as they can. The body will heal itself. Or when your gut sometimes feels like, like your stomach, or you feel like that you're about to, it's like that sinking feeling. Yeah. And these can be some of the signs. And if you find yourself getting irritated at the slightest thing, if somebody says to you, even if they're not being, nasty or rude, you just get, it's like you don't want to listen to people. It's like you feel irritated, and for no reasons, that you can see for yourself. Also, if you find yourself feeling overwhelmed by small things, like, something happens out of the blue, like, say you were supposed to meet someone and they cancel at the last minute, and you get irritated because you think, oh, I made plans to meet them, now I have to rechange my plans. Or a worker is meant to come in and you get irritated because your work is behind. And these are the red flags that you have to watch out for, So, and hopefully do something more to, de-stress by yourself taking some deep breaths and meditation. But I'll get into that later on. And also sometimes you're talking to somebody, but your train of thought disappears. You forget what you're saying, and then you're thinking, what am I talking about? Because they don't understand what you're saying because you've gone off the track. And that's stress creeping in. So recognizing these signs early on is important, because then you can recover or put steps in place to get rid of that stress or deal with it. So, you're also the expert, so I'm willing to listen and learn from yourself as well. Because great. Learning to recognize your stress early on before it gets too much is most important.
Thank you so much. I understand, like sleeping problems, and sometimes we forget because our train of thoughts simply disappearing. A lot of psychological conditions. It's important narrative that we've shared with our audience. Would like to move on to my second question. Again, one question says, impact of stress on mental and physical health. Please throw your lights.
Stress like that can be like a friend, or things getting out of your control again, or somebody doesn't leave you alone. You get persistent people ringing you up, asking you, same question again and again, and you get kind of tired of answering again and again. And over time, it can really wear you down. Or if you're always the one that people come to for help, and you're expected to be this kind, calm person, which is, I mean, I hear a lot from, families where, whether it's the mother or the daughter-in-law. But the thing is, men go through that as well. But because our men are taught to have that stiff upper lip, you don't share your feelings. All right. And so in those cases, they may take to drink or other forms. And this can weigh you down. I mean, if you don't learn to say no. And this is why we always say that it is okay to say no to something. You don't have to be that good person, and that's always gonna be, the one that's gonna be doing everything, be in charge. Mentally, it can lead to anxiety, depression, and making it hard to enjoy life, everyday things in life. And connecting with others. And physically, it can affect you because you don't feel like doing anything. You don't feel like doing any exercise. You don't feel like doing the housework or anything else. And it can also interfere with your sleep. Because if you're feeling so run down and so worked up, every nerve in your body is so tensed up that you can't relax. So if you're not relaxed, you can't go to sleep. So making you feel more and more stressed and run down. And even lead to serious issues like heart disease, stroke, and so on. So think of stress as a thief who's gradually stealing into your life, taking away your happiness and health from under your nose. So learn to recognize the signs and learn. And one of the biggest things we find is saying no to people. We take on more and more. And I mean, I'm just going to give you a little example here, Dr. Sundarji, that when we were stuck indoors, and you're stuck indoors, people were relaxing because there was nothing. I mean, there was different form of stress. I, being a typical person, I'm a doer. I like to do things. So I started doing counseling because there were people asking, look, people are stressed and depressed, would you be willing to offer counseling over the phone? And before I knew, it was meant to be 2 hours a day, which is okay. And I was like doing 12 hours, and I was getting supervision myself. So but then not just this, friends would ring up, others would ring up. So you find at the end of the day, I was getting stressed out because I woke up one day and thought, why am I so tired? And I realized because I wasn't having my sleep. So once I realized that was my trigger, I started cutting down on my commitments and taking stock of myself because I thought, well, when we come out of problem, I'll be the one that needs help.
This is certainly a very important area that you talked about, like stress, mental, physical health. Now I would like to move on to my third question. A very important question, ma'am. Says effective strategies to manage stress.
When life gets hectic, we need to take some solid, plans to handle stress. One of the best ways to, in my opinion, is to take regular breaks. Do something that you enjoy. I actually like, maybe because I was born come from a small village in Punjab. I love greenery. And I don't know if you heard this saying, if you get stressed out, walk barefoot on sand or on grass, because Mother Earth comes and heals you. I actually walk barefoot all the time. All right. And, not outside, not when I go for meetings, obviously, but at home, I don't wear shoes because because we were taught that we take our shoes off at the front door, so don't bring the, germs from outside. And so we walk barefoot at home. I don't even wear slippers inside. And I have natural grass, so I walk on that, in the morning or whenever I get the time. And also to, kind of take a deep breath. And I find that the best thing for me, because I do have a stressful life in some ways, but then I think being a stress management consultant myself, I should be able to deal with it. So one of the things I do is I tend to give myself self hypnotherapy, because I'm qualified hypnotherapist, and I take a few minutes. And the best way for me is I start the day as I mean to. In the morning, I make myself a cup of tea. And I'm sure people who will read this might think it's funny. I make a cup of tea, I take it back to my bed, and I put it on my side table. And then I read a chapter of a book. Not something too intensive, something lighthearted. It could be a mystery novel, or it could be a romance novel, just one chapter. That for me sets my day off. And then I come out of it, and I have noticed that that's my me time. That's 15 minutes in the morning before I'm rushing around. And and I find that that's one of it. And the other thing is, say throughout the day, if I'm rushing around and from one meeting to another, I tend to take time out, close my eyes for 5 minutes, and I take deep breaths, which is for just a few minutes, and then keep on at the same time saying to myself, calm, letting go of the tension. And that for me works quite good. The other thing is, what we forget is to exercise, because that has two benefits, physical as well as mental. I'm not one of these people who likes to be in a gym, in a room, even if they got the TV there or something, because I don't find that relaxing for me, to be honest, Dr. Sundaji. I like to walk. Look around, and you could say I'm a bit of a, kind of being nosy, looking at people's garden, because I love plants, I love flowers. So the best thing is, if you've got a park near you, walk in a park. But if not, even walking down a road is walking, and you can see things. All right, if you don't have a quiet tree-lined road, even walking past shops, you could look at what people. I used to make up stories for my children and even my grandchildren now. And we walk down there and we say, "Oh, this person," and we say, "What do you think he is?" Like making us stories for them. And that for me is relaxing. And or practicing meditation, mindfulness, any of these things will stay with you and help you. See how much people 30 years ago didn't think yoga was a big deal. Now everybody knows that people are paying loads of money to attend. But we already know those. It's just taking time out in this stressful life now. And don't underestimate the time. Like in the old days, people, women used to get together, chit chat. And have you noticed, and I'm sure this is what we pay professional counselors to do, hear our problems, but having a good set of friends that you can talk to, and you find that your tension goes. Not only you feel more relaxed after talking to your friends, even if it's gossip, but sometimes you may have a business idea and you exchange ideas. That helps you as well. And for me, having good friends and good colleagues around means a lot. This is why I think more stress came when people were sitting at home now after the lockdown, because they don't have, whereas if you went into an office, you were with people, you had a tea break, you could talk around, have a little chat. And that's why we need friends. We need isolation. And this is what people, we don't need isolation, because people sometimes don't have anywhere to burn off their stress or their feelings of loneliness.
Lots, it seems like more of a naturopathy you talked about, like walking barefoot and reading a book, a chapter, and then taking.
Because to be honest, I suppose if you go so much down into stress or mental health, you become depressed. You do need traditional medicine. Yeah. But I think the best idea is to avoid, because then you can become dependent on them. Because you might start on a low dose, and if you're still not getting out of it, you feel more and more, depressed, and the dosage goes up. So I always think, try the natural way first.
Like it's like more of a naturopathy, walking barefoot,
Yes,
reading a book, taking a deep breath, and doing some exercise, talking to your friends can certainly be very much
yes.
instrumental and natural ways to cut short your and
Mm.
mitigate your stress level, which is very healthy for a human possibility to happen in a much better way. Would like to move on to my fourth question, which is
Mm.
again wrap up question also. So it's like sociological and cultural influences on mental health. We would like to have your perceptions.
Well, as you know, different cultures view mental health in different ways. And I sometimes, one of the things that comes to mind, like I said, I come from a small village. Well, not so. I mean, my father's village was very small, limited number of people. My mother's was a big, almost like a town. And I remember in my mom's town kind of thing, there was one child, not child, a person, young person, whose parents had died, and now I realize he was probably suffering from mental health. All right, but people, he lived in a house, and there was the window, and sometimes people would tease him, and it stayed in my mind for a long time, Dr. Sundaji. Maybe that's why I went into alternative healings and so on. Because as I grew older, you realize that when people don't have children, don't have someone to look after them, especially in India, where at that time, we are talking back, nearly 60 years ago, they didn't understand. So people would, he's mad, he's that. So it's taken in different places in different ways. Like in the West, traditionally, even in the West, if people had mental issues, they were put away in hospitals and given shock treatments, electric shock treatments. But now, as time has gone on, we have understood more and more. And I think that even in the East, I mean, in India, I think before the families used to take care of their own, grandparents and so on. And I think it was less mental stress in those days because grandparents had, children to talk to, grandchildren to talk to. And now that we are all becoming isolated, it has gone on the increase. And in some places, and I still remember, and I'll be honest enough to tell you this, I had a very serious accident, which was one of the reasons I lost my job that I was doing very well, climbing the ladder very much in the civil service. I had an accident, and that left me with a physical and a head injury. Right? I didn't know I had a head injury. Nobody understood, even the doctors didn't see it first, And it was only because my own occupational health doctor, who after 4 years thought, this is not the woman we know. And it was a lady doctor. So nothing against the male doctors, but it was a lady doctor. And she actually checked out on the straight way. So, and then people talk about stress, talk about mental health, but there's no shame in it. We all go through depression. You can go through, stress because if you lose a job, you have marriage problems, or you're upset because, things don't work out at home. So there is no shame, and we shouldn't label people that they're depressed. All right. And, because people assume if you're suffering from stress or the label gets depression, people think it's a sign of weakness. It's not a sign of weakness. All right. In fact, I think it takes more courage to admit you need help, you need advice, than to keep on hiding it till it becomes a boiling point, and then you lose all track. And because people think it's, either it's going to affect their jobs or it's going to affect their relationship with others, they're reluctant to admit that they need help. And so, which makes it worse again. So social media also plays a big role in this, because it sometimes glamorizes people who might be actors, famous people. But if somebody normal, ordinary human being is going through that, they're considered crazy, which doesn't make sense. So sometimes we need to create a situation that everybody feels that they have a right to talk. We in the West are very lucky. We have our Samaritans, which you can ring up. You can pick up a phone and ring them 24 hours, 7 days a week. You don't have to give your name. You can just talk to somebody who's at the other end of the phone, who's qualified and experienced, and they're not there to judge you. And also, we need to understand that our environment can also influence how we deal. And this is why I'm a great believer that we need to create, an environment where it's natural, environment plays a part, like encourage more flowers. Because have you noticed that if you see flowers growing and, trees coming up, you feel more relaxed? And I'm a great believer that the color green is actually a healing color. And whenever I'm dealing with clients, I always say to them, imagine, because green is also the color in chakras of the heart, which is a growing color. So you say, and you need to open your heart to accept help and to give help and to accept love and receive love. And also we need to create a kind of a giving environment, a supportive environment for people to feel free to seek help.
I mean, in one comments from your end, you talked about like the silent epidemic, understanding and stress, mental health in a fast-paced world. You talked about how to manage stress and mental, physical health, effective strategies to manage stress, and social and cultural influences on mental health. What I understand is like walking the talk, because you walk the talk and you're a person of courage and dedication and commitment. You've also mentioned you've had an accident, and then recuperation and recovery is sometimes very difficult. I've also had some detail that we were also at one point of time a serious candidate aspirant of civil services here in India, UPSC, Union Public Service Commission. Is that right?
Sorry, say that again, Dr. Suniti. I missed that.
Well, I'm saying there was a time I figured out that you were also a serious aspirant of civil services, Union Public Service Commission.
Yeah, it was with what became it started in the education department and went into job centers, benefits and so on, and then DWP, Department for Works and Pension. And I think it's a good grounding for anybody. And but originally I started at 16. I started work at 16 in the private sector. Again, climbed their ladder very quickly and got married at 20, a day before my 21st birthday. So was in the civil service, and after my accident, when they medically retired me, and because they didn't see, at that time, because of the head injury and the physical injury, after 5 years, they didn't see that I'd be coming back, because I had to learn speech and learn. I still sometimes, if I'm stressed, do get headaches, which is as a result. But you see, you learn to cope with it. I received a lot of good therapy and so on. And that's why I trained. I trained in hypnotherapy to understand why. I trained in Reiki. I'm a Reiki master 3 times over. And because I was looking for answers. We all look for answers, don't we? But like my father said, look for the answers deep within yourself. And the only person that can help you is the God Almighty. And I'm a great believer in God. And I think whatever life throws, if we are given, if something's taken away from us, if we are clear of mind, body, and we are willing to help those around us, our communities and others, I think fate or the universe will always help us to achieve our dreams. And I think life is too short. We only know this life. I do believe there is life after death, but none of us has seen that. So I think we must do the best we can in the life that we have here and now. Be the best role models for our children, our communities, and help those that we can.
Thank you so much, ma'am, once again responding these 4 important questions, and it was a wonderful possibility. I'm sure that a major chunk of your answers and narratives would be certainly instrumental and beneficial for our audience at the platform of research. It was a wonderful possibility for us to have you on this platform, ma'am. Thank you so much once again joining us from
Thank you.